All right, welcome everyone. I'm going to go ahead and get started. I'm sure we'll have some stragglers coming in as we continue the evening. I really do appreciate everyone being out here this evening for what we feel at Mason is really changing the landscape of education moving forward. I know over the past probably year you've received several e-blasts from me with certain updates on dual enrollment. Just to give you a brief history of where we started, about 4 years ago, we had a science teacher by the name of Brian Harris, who was very interested in teaching a dual enrollment class. He was one of the few teachers in the building who was in fact certified. And the certification process, what that means is you need to have 18 disciplined hours in the particular area that you're teaching. Okay, I'll talk a little bit about that later, but many of our teachers meet those requirements and are now eligible to teach a dual enrollment class. It doesn't account for all of our teachers, but there are some that do have masters in their specific field. This would not include a teacher who actually has a master's of education. Go figure. I can argue with Tom about that a little bit later, and I'm going to try to change that as we move forward throughout the next couple of years. But Brian came to us and said, I'd really like to start this endeavor. I think it'd be an excellent opportunity for these students. So we started offering a geophysics class. This was really built from scratch. We didn't have a class at Nova that we were able to actually couple the program with. So we worked long and hard and decided to couple it with a class called Introduction to Natural History. You're probably asking yourself, a science teacher teaching a natural history course. Well, what I'm here to tell you is that we really needed to be creative when we started this process. We recognized that we didn't have many teachers that were qualified to do this. And so he decided he was going to build this class with that being the theme. In an effort to do so, it has grown tremendously over the last 4 years. Students are now earning 3 NOVA, that's Northern Virginia Community College credits, while simultaneously earning a credit of geophysics, which is a required science credit that they need. So that's kind of where the program started. As I embarked upon this journey, and it really is a journey, as I'm going to explain in a little bit, I recognized that there was a need for more classes. The question you're probably asking is, why can't students earn college credits in high school? That's kind of why I'm here to talk to you tonight and tell you a little bit about how we're making that a possibility for all the students. So I want to introduce myself. I'm Matt Hills, the assistant principal in charge of the dual enrollment program here at George Mason. To my right, this is Tom Grain, the dual enrollment coordinator for NOVA. He works not just exclusively with George Mason, but several schools in the area. I'm going to let him answer some questions in a little bit. And we have Janice Nettie to my right, who is probably passing out some of the documents that I'll be talking about in a little bit. He's our administrative assistant. So those are that's your dual enrollment team. If you get any emails, it'll probably be from one of the 3 of us moving forward, okay? So what exactly is dual enrollment? I hit on it a little bit, and really what it comes down to is students being able to earn college credit while taking high school courses. So it really is an enrichment opportunity. You know, I think one of the things you'll see across the country is more and more states making it possible for students to do this. This has been a huge push by the state legislature saying, you know what, we recognize that 4 years of college is pretty expensive. And if students are really at that level, that college level, they're able to read and write on that level, and also if they're able to take these rigorous courses, why in the world shouldn't we offer something like that in high school? And I think that's where it really comes down to. Not to say that the courses cannot be enrolled in by students of all different sizes, shapes, and abilities. And that's something I'm going to talk to tonight. It really depends on the specific class. So I want us to focus a little bit about the specific classes tonight, what they entail. How are you going to know if your son or daughter is able or prepared to take one of those classes? We'll talk about that as well. So first things first, some of the logistical items. And we do have to follow NOVA's protocol. This is really any community college partnership across the state of Virginia, where students over the age of 16, that's kind of the eligibility requirement, so 16 and over, or we recognize that we have some juniors who are on the cusp of turning 16 and NOVA is able to work with them as well. That's kind of what students need. They also consider sophomores. So what I'm going to talk about is how a sophomore can enroll, what those specific classes would look like, and there's a sophomore exemption policy that NOVA has prepared for us. In my experience, we've had probably about, last year, maybe 14 sophomores who applied, all were accepted. So it really is on a case-by-case basis, and I'll go over that in a little bit. That just kind of gives you an idea of how a student is eligible to take that class. Another thing that is required, I'm going to get into this as well, it's a passing math SOL score in the previous 2 years. So this is something for our students who have not transferred in from another school. I'd say the majority of our students, close to 85–90%, meet that particular requirement. Okay, so that's the one thing they need. The second thing is what's known as the Virginia Placement Test. This is the equivalency of a college reading and writing exam. It's a 40-question multiple choice English assessment with a short essay. And really what it is to measure if a student is really ready to meet the requirements at the college level, reading and writing. I can honestly say we've probably administered the test over 100 times in the last year and a half. Our pass rate is about 98%. So we have a very, very strong pass rate. And I can answer some questions about what the test entails in a little bit once I refer to this packet. What are the exemptions of NOVA? They recognize SATs, ACTs, and PSATs. You may have wondered why this year we added the PSAT for the ninth graders for the first year. We recognize that this is an opportunity for some of our freshman students to show their knowledge. If they score a certain score, which is in this packet, I call this really the holy grail of what we're going to be discussing today, because this will go over everything that you need to know, from the letter to the requirements, to the application process, everything we're going to go over tonight. But really what we wanted to do is give students every possible opportunity so that they wouldn't have to sit for this placement exam. That's not to say that it's not a difficult exam. It's just to say we wanted to afford them additional opportunities. One of the goals of this program is not only to allow students to earn several credits, but really to put in place a program that allows them to earn a minimum of 1 year of college. So what that means is we're offering something, and in your packet you'll see called the General Education Certificate. This is a certificate students will earn while at George Mason. It's a total of 33 credits. I'm going to go over the sequencing and how that looks, where they can actually earn a year's worth of college going into college. What does that mean for you? Well, number one, a lot of money. Absolutely, we all love that. Number two, if you guys remember when you were in college, we spent so much time our freshman year taking these prerequisite courses, really a repeat of courses that many of our students take junior and senior year in high school. So we don't want to make them do that again. So this is going to allow them to start their major class a little bit earlier. So maybe they're majoring in, let's say, agriculture, for example. They can start some of those higher 200, 300 level classes early, as opposed to taking those prerequisite classes over again. So this affords them that opportunity as well. I'm going to go over the certificate with you tonight, show you the potential sequence path, and how NOVA allows us to actually include a combination of AP and IB classes. This all is contingent, however, on a passing score at the end of the course. So let me give you an example of that. If you take a look at your packet, you'll notice on the second page an example of the dual enrollment sequence. So if you take a look as a yes. She may have gone to copy more, so they'll be there very, very shortly. What you'll notice is AP Government is offered 10th grade year. AP Government is, of course, traditionally our students perform very, very well. Okay? But in order to earn the necessary credit, in order to meet the social science requirement, students need to score a 3 or higher on that particular exam in order to earn the credit. So what that means, student A could earn A's all the way through, from, let's say, quarter 1, quarter 2, all the way. And then for some reason, they end up bombing the AP test. Now let me give you an idea. We have probably a 90% 90 to 95% pass rate. That means 95% of our students score higher than a 3 on the AP test. So it's very rare. It's rare that a student could perform well throughout the entire year and not do very well on the test. But NOVA's requirement is that the student passes. So that course alone, without the test, does not count as part of this general certificate. But with a passing score, it does. And that goes for many of our IB classes as well. Okay. So one of the things you'll notice here is a sequence example. So let's say you have a rising 10th grader, and you're trying to figure out, okay, what am I going to do? So if I want to go the IB route, which you can absolutely do both. You can take IB classes, you can take dual enrollment classes. I'll talk a little bit about that as well. But an example of a sequence here would be my 10th grade year, I'm going to take AP Government. Right? If you don't take AP Government, that doesn't preclude you from learning this, but this is just an example. All right, you're going to earn 3 credits for that. All right, grade 11, you're going to sit in the U.S. History class, Physics, and an AP Stats class. All right, I'll talk about those classes individually in a little bit, what they entail. In your grade 12, you're actually going to take the English Composition class and the Introduction to Theater. That in itself would be an example sequence of a student who can earn 33 credits. Count them up, that equals 1 year of college. So right now, for those of you who have rising sophomores, this is something that they're meeting with their counselors, they're going over the possibilities, right? Hopefully talking to you about it. Is this something that could work for me? One of the questions that I receive is, how do I know if my student is a dual enrollment student? Well, I think it's very different than, let's say, an IB diploma student, because the classes are all very, very different. I'll talk about that a little bit. The offerings, as I mentioned, this is something, this year was the first year we offered our U.S. History 121 and 122 class. That's primarily for our juniors. We have about 110 juniors who are eligible to take this particular class, and then we had about 90 who decided to go the IB route, which is fine. Geophysics, this is going to be our 5th year in geophysics, the course I described in the very beginning. Next year, we're actually going to be piloting our Physics 101 and 102 course. I'll talk about how wonderful of an opportunity that is based on the number of credits. It actually ends up being 8 credits that a student can earn 2 labs for the first semester or the second. Okay? The English Composition class, next year will be the first year we're offering that as well. I'll talk a little bit about the writing intensity of the class, and if you know your child would be a strong candidate for that. One of the things that the General Education Certificate requires is a student to take a 1-credit student development course. This is a course we are offering in the summer. It is a course that really goes over organizational skills. Almost every single freshman across the nation has to take this. Sometimes it's part of their orientation. Sometimes it's included in their first year. It's added as maybe a 1-credit elective course. So this is going to be 6 hours, and I'll talk a little bit about that as well. One of the things we're trying to do, and I'm waiting for Tom to do me a solid and tell me if we're actually going to be able to offer an Introduction to Theater class, which would actually cover a fine arts requirement. And that's pending approval. The hope is that we're able to offer that next year for the fall and spring. If not, we'll find an additional fine arts elective that will be offered in the summer. And I'll talk a little bit about my summer program as well. So U.S. History 121 and 122. This is a course where students will earn 1 GM credit while earning 6 NOVA credits. The way we do it, it actually works out perfectly. So we're different than Fairfax and Arlington in that we run a semester schedule. Works perfectly for NOVA, where they're on a semester schedule as well. So your student can sit for the first semester, which is 121, earn the 3 credits, then sit for the second semester and earn the other 3 credits. We have had students actually enter the class midway through the year because 121 is not a prerequisite for 122, which is nice. Not all courses are like that, but it still affords them that opportunity. So you're probably asking yourself, what are some of the differences between, let's say, the CP version of the class or the IB version? Well, one of the things they focus on is primary text analysis. This is something that's a big topic in college. It's something that they want the kids to understand. And another difference is the semester research project. So when we were all in college, we remember that the biggest transition, the hardest transition for us was all of a sudden we're not graded on homework, we're not graded on effort, We could possibly have a class where we have one midterm and one final, and that's where you get your grade. So one of the things this program is trying to teach the students is how important it is to focus on these particular semester research projects. So what we do is for the first semester in US 121, we kind of handhold the kids a little bit. Ms. Vandernold's our teacher. She's able to have about a 6-step process that teaches the kids how to get ready. We're all familiar with the first day of college classes. You get the syllabus, and hey, if you don't want to come back to class, you can pretty much do everything outside of class. It may or may not be successful. It's all up to you. One of the things you'll notice in most college classes, they're going to give you a long-term project. That's how you manage your time. That's how you organize. These are all elements that we're trying to teach the students as they move forward. So it's critical that they're understanding how to meet timelines. How in the world am I going to get through this huge, long semester project? What does it look like? And I say huge, long, not to scare anyone, because it is similar to what they're doing, but it's chunked out. And our goal is by the time they get to 122 for the second semester, that they're really able to do it on their own, that they're able to plan the project. This past semester, when you think of a project, just to give you an idea, and you have a copy of Ms. Vandernold's syllabus. I know I had Ms. Nettie copy a few more, but that just gives you an overview of the weight and the percentages and how they differ from a traditional class. But one of her projects that she ended up doing was based on, she had students create commercials. Okay? It was research-based, so still on the same level as really high school, but also meeting some of the college requirements that are set forth by NOAA. So that just kind of gives you an idea of what we're working with. Geophysics, as I mentioned, I talked a little bit about that. One of the differences between the geophysics traditional class and the dual enrollment is that they really get into more in-depth topics. They talk a little bit about some additional units, such as astronomy, which they wouldn't really touch on in the traditional class, and then, of course, that semester project. Physics 101 and 102, I mentioned a little bit as well. This is an 8-credit class. So there are 2 4-semester labs that students are able to earn. This is a pilot course as well. Next year is going to be the first year we offer it. What that means is, right now we have 50 students who are currently enrolled in the physics class. 2 out of those 50 students are sophomores. And one of the prerequisites is that you need to have completed Algebra 2. So that's something where, students take a look and they'll say, all right, you know what, I think my math background will allow me to be successful in that particular class. But just imagine earning 8 credits. Many of our students will take, maybe 12 credits, 15 credits their first semester of college. So this really gets a lot of those courses, those initial prerequisite, entry-level, 100-level courses out of the way so they can move on as they get to college. Another class we're piloting next year is our English Composition 111, 112 class. Students will be earning 1 GM credit and 6 NOVA credits, 3 and 3, just as we would in the U.S. history class. How is this class different from, let's say, your traditional English 12 class, or even your IB-SL or your IB-HL? One of the things we focus on in this class is writing, hence the composition name. It's very intensive. One of the requirements is that students will have to write 20 pages throughout the entire semester. Sounds like a daunting task. Now, some of our students are doing that in our classes anyway. How we manage that and how we create those assignments is left up to us. So when you think, oh my goodness, a 20-page research paper, that's not how it is. We're able to differentiate in the class based on need. We're able to, let's say, have a student do a 3-page reaction to a Sports Illustrated piece. Or maybe the student who wants to go ahead and research a different topic. We can do a 5, 7, 8-page. So we do have differentiating assignments that meet the needs of our particular learners. As you notice in many of our IB classes, there's a lot of analyzing literature. That's something that the students might do at their 200 level. So NOVA offers a world literature course that's 251 and 252. That's something that they may do there, but they're going to be really focusing on how do I know I'm ready to write in college? What are the elements of writing? How does it work? There's also a semester project associated with that as well. Yes, sir?
I don't know anything about the IB courses because the thing was canceled yesterday.
Oh,
You're
okay.
assuming knowledge.
Yes. I will talk a little bit about that. I don't want to spoil the fun for tomorrow night because Miss Brown is going to be here discussing that. So one of the things students can decide between going into their junior year is whether to take IB courses, dual enrollment courses, your traditional, general CP level, so many different options that they have. So when you talk about the comparison between IB and dual enrollment, it's very hard to pinpoint and give you a straight answer. What I can tell you is it's a different style. So if you feel that your student is a strong writer, okay, but they struggle with analyzing higher level text, they may be perfect for the composition class, but they may not do so well in the IB, HL, higher level class, the English class. That's going to require a lot of that analyzing and breaking down higher level text. So that just kind of gives you an idea. That's why I say it's really on a case-by-case basis. It's on a student-by-student basis. It's based on strengths and weaknesses. And that's what we're really going for. Our goal here at George Mason, we want to give students every opportunity. And so when we sit down and talk about specific student needs, these are some of the questions that we like to ask ourselves. It is my belief, though, that a student who may struggle in writing could end up being successful in this class because of the support of our teacher. Could they be successful if they just went straight to Nova or right to Michigan and took an entry-level freshman class? Maybe not, because they're not getting the support that we offer here at George Mason.
So oftentimes in an English composition class, of course, or an English class generally, their writing is in response to something that they've read or a piece of literature or a short story. So if they're not writing in response to analyzing literature, can you share a little bit about, so that we can make a good decision, what their writing is based on? Yep. Is it still kind of adhering to the 5-paragraph form that is, expected in most high school English classes, or do the forms expand?
Yeah, I can answer. I'm going to let Tom jump in on this one, but what I will say is, there are elements of analyzing literature, not to the degree of, let's say, the IB HL class. Let me just make that clear as possible. But I think ultimately what we're focusing on is, how do you write a 5-paragraph essay? Sure, that absolutely could be a part of it. We recognize that at the college level, the demands of writing is vastly different than the demands of writing at the high school level. You may have a student who, on paper, their grammar is top notch, but for some reason they struggle with that organizational component and the structure. So we focus more on the mechanics, the structure. That's kind of the goal.
Yeah, do you agree with that? Yeah, you explained a lot of it. The key thing is, I think, the amount of literature they're responding to. So it's not whole novels or anything like that, and they have to write a response. It's more either small prompts, or it's things that they'll ask a question about, like an argumentative piece, something like that, and they'll answer that. Okay. So it's not void of literature, sure, but it's just less intense.
Yes, sir.
Can a student theoretically earn the IB diploma and do dual enrollment?
You're getting ahead of yourself, but I like where your head's at. No. So, and that's a short answer. An IB diploma student, and that's a decision you're going to sit down with your son or daughter and decide going into their junior year. If they're an IB diploma student, and we're talking about probably 40 to 50 of a class of 200, those students have a set criteria, number of classes they need to meet, and so they would not be eligible for these classes. However, an IB certificate student, and that is a student who dabbles in the field of IB, meaning taking X, Y, and Z class throughout, let's say, their junior and senior years, can also simultaneously take this dual enrollment class. And the majority of our students fall under that category. Yes?
Question, are these courses offered as full year, or did you have to?
Yes, all of these courses are taught by our teachers, our certified teachers who meet the requirements of NOVA, so they aren't actually taught in the building. And I'll talk a little bit about how the summer is going to work. So that's a perfect segue. The College Success Skills class, or the STD 100, is that one credit course I talked about. This is kind of a description. What we're trying to do is part of our goal here at George Mason, we recognize that students want to take so many different courses. And we don't want them to be completely overwhelmed in junior and senior year. So we offer our Summer Academy program, which allows students to kind of expedite their academic program by allowing them to take certain courses through our High C program as well. And we have a list of courses. I'm going to be sending out our Summer Academy registration over spring break, and that kind of outlines the courses. But in that, you will also see some of our dual enrollment classes that are offered. So this is going to be a class that hopefully starts July 8th. It's a 6-week course that's offered on Thursdays from 9 to 10:20. The question I always get is, well, wait a second, we're going to be traveling. And yes, I recognize that. So what did we do? We were allowing students to Skype in or Google Hangout. We recognize that this is the 21st century, and many of the courses at Nova are offered through the Extended Learning Institute. This particular course is not. However, we worked it out with Nova, we've worked it out with the professor, where they recognize students are traveling. We want to give them an opportunity to earn this 1 credit towards the Gen Ed certificate. Yes.
I guess I'm old fashioned. My kid's working in the summer, so she could not do that. Would it be recorded? Did she do it at night another time?
That is an excellent question. I can look into that. What I will say is our goal moving forward is to actually incorporate this class into one of our other dual enrollment classes. So instead of making it a standalone, we would like to offer it during the year. I know at Arlington Career Center, with some of their classes, for example, their auto tech class, where students are earning 11 credits throughout their 3 years of Auto 1, Auto 2, and Auto 3, they encompass and incorporate this class into their curriculum. That is the goal moving forward, but in order to kind of get a head start on this program, we wanted to make that offering this summer. Hopefully I can come back when I send my Summer Academy letter and kind of give you guys some updates on if that class will be available next year during the school year. We do recognize students work, they have camps, they travel, so we want to make it as easy as possible for you.
Will you encourage students to sign up for this class? Because I remember last year there was not enough students and you canceled it.
Yes, last year we got a late start. Our goal was to try and offer it in the summer. There is a minimum requirement for courses that are taught solely by Nova instructors. This would be a course taught solely by a Nova instructor. It would not be taught by our teachers here. What that means is we need a minimum of 8 students for enrollment. Most of the time that's not a problem. Last summer, as you mentioned, yes, we only got about 5 students who registered because we didn't have the commitment that they were able to do the video chat, but I'm hoping that will change some things around this year. We'll see. That's a good point. Thank you. Okay, so I do have some frequently asked questions. I'm sure you'll have a ton more, and I'll let myself and Tom kind of chime in on how these can affect or impact your particular child. So how does dual enrollment differ from IB? I alluded to it a little bit, and I don't want to really go over the IB program because I think Ms. Brown's going to do that tomorrow night. One of the events was canceled last night, but she'll definitely reschedule that. But the IB program is a staple in this school. Like I said, we are not in direct competition with IB. It's an additional opportunity for our students to be successful. That's the goal. We recognize that students are going to want to take IB histories of the Americas because you know what? That's something that's the style that they like, as opposed to, let's say, the U.S. history class. So really what the counselors are doing is they're describing the classes, they're telling them they're showing them the syllabus that I gave you, and they're talking about what are the benefits from actually enrolling in a dual enrollment class versus an IB. The students who you mentioned, sir, want to be IB diploma candidates. They already have a set list of classes that they're going to take their junior and senior year. What we do allow, we have many juniors that start with the thought that they're going to be an IB diploma student, and then they say, you know what, I had one this year that said, Mr. Hills, do you mind if I go into the History 122 class? I'm very overwhelmed. That happens all the time. So that is always possible. We also have had students who their 11th grade year, they are taking the IB SL class, English. That's IB Standard Level English. And that's a 2-year class. Many of our IB classes are 2-year programs. So what happens is if you offer an English 12 dual enrollment class, the composition class I noted earlier, a student will have to make a decision. Do I want to continue with my SL or HL IB level class? Or do I now want to switch over and try to earn 6 credits? So we're giving them this decision. We're educating them. We're talking about the benefits. That's kind of how we plan.
I'm going to jump in. On the first question, the other big difference between IB and if you're familiar with AP as well, versus dual enrollment is the fact that your student is actually enrolling in the college class. So where IB and AP, the college credit is awarded after the fact, after the test in May or whenever they take it, with the dual enrollment course, they're getting a college transcript as they're participating in the school year. So in the fall, they're in that History 121 class, and in the spring, they're in that History 122 class. And that's the big difference.
I was just looking at this is general education. It says at the end they got a C or better, would likely transfer to a Virginia college. What about out of state?
So
What is the recognition out of state?
it can be. That's a great question. And I knew somebody's going to ask that. It can be. It depends on the school. Just because we work more with Virginia colleges, I'm more accustomed to answering those questions. So we always say the best way to verify that is contact whatever college your son or daughter is interested in. If they're really wanting to go to University of Maryland, contact them and say, will you take this credit for English 111, 112?
But if you were going to make a generalization, would you say that the IP, AP are more universally accepted to a broader range of schools, perhaps, or?
It depends on the class, and it also depends on the school. So I would say,
I think currently
yeah.
what we're struggling with is a 9th or 10th grader. We don't know where they're going to go.
Right.
So,
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah, we'll wait it.
No, and that's a
What is
really
the most
good.
universally
That's a really
applicable?
good point. So you also have to recognize if you want your son or daughter to earn credits in that particular IB class, it is contingent upon their final score on that assessment. Many of our students, especially who are taking the SL courses, do not receive college credit, and there's a low number of our students who are scoring in the 6 and 7 ranges on those IB tests. Those IB tests are very difficult. That's not to say that they're not going to be successful in the particular course, but I will say that the percentages are quite low, that they're going to get in the 6 and 7 range on the IB higher level tests, which means they're not going to earn the college credit, and therefore will have to sit for the class again. You asked which is more universally accepted. That's really, really hard to answer. What I will say is, going back to my original point of, this is not only a Virginia-wide initiative, this is really an entire national-wide initiative. So as we've seen over the last, let's say, 3 years, your Michigans, your Marylands, your big boy colleges are truly recognizing these as college classes. And we always say, yes, you should go ahead and take a look at their website, call the academic advisors, but that based on our experience, more and more colleges are accepting these classes.
And within Virginia, the English class transfers, for the most part, better than the IB or AP. Outside of Virginia, I can't give that information with certainty, but within Virginia, it's fairly, yeah.
I was just going to clarify the point you just made. You said, so the Michigans and the Marylands accept this as college credit, but do they have to be enrolled in the DE program to get that recognized, or can they just come take the class at Mason and later decide if they want to use it for college credit? Or you have to kind of be on the record with NOVA before the class is taken?
Well, yeah, at the fall semester or whenever it enrolls, they have to be enrolled in the class in order to get the credit. They can't do it kind of retroactive. Yeah.
At NOVA, okay.
So we do all that.
For example, so a sophomore this year taking AP Government that is not enrolled with NOVA would not be getting dual enrollment credit.
Not for the AP, but they can transfer that AP credit later. That makes sense.
So for the AP class, yes. Yes, so back to the AP classes, it is retroactive. So if a student scores that 3 on a test, they pass the class, and then let's say they decide their junior year that they're going to go ahead and enroll in some of these classes. Yes, in fact, we can go back and NOVA will award them the credit based on that score. Yes?
Is there uniformity in our region in how the high school of Fairfax County, George Mason, Arlington are weighting these classes?
You're getting ahead of yourself. All right. So the question was, is there uniformity in how the classes are weighted? So this is the first year, and we have made a decision to go ahead and offer a weight for all of our dual enrollment classes. So traditionally speaking, the majority of schools in our area do offer a 1.0 weight. And that's consistent across the board. That's what we are doing for our students who are currently enrolled, and will continue to do as we move forward.
Fairfax County, so some of said they weighted half as much. They
Yeah.
haven't weighted as much as we will be doing.
So Fairfax, they're doing 1.0. Arlington's doing 0.5. 0.5. Now at the end,
They're up to 1.
oh, they're up to 1. So they just moved up to 1. Excellent. Last.
Because you try to how to analyze how to make sense of that. If they're doing less, are they seeing less readers than we are?
Yeah. No, and that's what we see. It is a college course. We want to represent it as such, and therefore we offer the weight. Keep in mind, though, when weighted grades, often sometimes we have to remember that when students do go to apply to college, some of the colleges will take a look at the weight, but then they'll also reduce that final GPA based on without the weight. But we do want to recognize it, and therefore we decided to go ahead and do this. Yes.
We're talking a lot about credit. Can you talk a little bit about admissions and how colleges look at these classes versus IB versus AP?
So most colleges will, on their website, say that they weight them as rigorous courses equally. There probably are some that weight them differently, but they're not forthcoming with a lot of that information. So from the ones that I've spoken to and heard in different presentations, they've weighted equally. So it's seen as a college level course because it is a college course. It's just not as widely known about as AP and IB. So, in the back.
To be certain, while it is a dual enrollment with Nova Community College, the courses are all taken here at Mason.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
I just want to make sure they're not
Almost
walking over.
all of them.
I'm sorry?
The student development course that I mentioned is
Right.
something that's taught by Nova, and we're still waiting on confirmation that our Intro to Theater course is going to make it happen. Right? Is going to be taught here as well. If not, we will offer that as an elective throughout the summer as well.
Okay.
But 95% of the courses, yes, are offered here in this building.
Okay.
Yes.
This is probably getting ahead because I just saw this, but I see the word tuition, and I'm wondering, for those of us who have 529s, where does that come into play? How much is tuition per credit, and how do our 529s come into play? We put away prepaid versus not prepaid, all the different variables.
This is an easy question. So ones that are taught at the high school are at no charge. So by having it here, we don't have to worry, Nova doesn't have to worry about facilities, we don't have to worry about the faculty, so it's at no charge to the student or the school. So you can save that 529 savings for others. Yeah.
Do colleges look at these as incoming classes or as transfer students?
They look at them as incoming freshmen with transfer credits, if that makes sense. So they see them as
they'll be stacked against incoming freshmen, not
Right.
as transfer students.
Right.
About how many kids are in each of the classes that you had this past year? And did you have to, I know you had to cancel the one in the summer, but did you have to cancel any other?
No, we didn't. We have currently enrolled in our U.S. History class 20 students. We decided to run that class probably at the end of May, so it was not part of our program of studies. It was not part of the registration process. This was all word of mouth. I believe that those sections will rise. We'll probably get to 2 sections next year. Our geophysics class, 2 years ago, we had 6 students enrolled. This year we have 36. So we went from 1 section of a very small cohort of students to now 2, about 18 in each. But that's normally the size. I mean, our sizes, the classes are comparable to full church city policy. So, you're not going to see classes of 30 and 40. I mean, we adhere to what we want to make sure they're small class sizes. They're getting that individual attention. So that's what we do. But I don't believe that running classes, keeping them open will be a problem moving forward.
I just want to clarify. So, if my daughter were to take the English 101 competition, and she received an A. So when she applies for college here, hopefully near here, then she will be getting an A as her first composition one of her classes.
That is correct.
But for AP course though, if she were to take an AP class of any subject matters, so if they do pass the test and agree, that will be transferred as a C. Is that right?
Well,
College?
anytime you bring in credits from an outside institution, whether it's NOVA, College Board for the AP or IB, it comes in as a transfer credit, so it's not given a GPA weight, if that makes sense. So it counts towards your requirements, but it doesn't, if you go to, let's say, Mason, it doesn't, that A doesn't count as a 4.0 at Mason. It comes in as a credit, but it doesn't, the GPA doesn't count.
But it would allow them to take the next higher level.
Correct,
That
yeah.
requires that as a prerequisite.
Correct. So if they took English 111 and 112, then they could jump right into a literature course afterwards.
Thank you.
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know where you were.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It sounds like this is relatively new. How many years has Mason been running this program?
Yeah, so as I mentioned in the beginning, our geophysics classes is our 4th year, so we've really only been running one class. This year was the first year we added to that, and then next year will be the first year that we offer that 1 year, that general education certificate that encompasses the 33 credits for students. So we are still in the infant stages, but we believe we've come a long way and now able to kind of give students a really great opportunity here.
So this is an expanding program. You see this as expanding to more and more classes.
Absolutely. I mean, our ultimate goal is to really be able to offer an associate's degree for all students. If you take a look at the number of courses that we offer, we're close. We're not there. It's going to require some teachers who, I know right now we have teachers who are credentialed in the building, and so it's kind of a puzzle right now, trying to make sure that those teachers who have the credentials to teach at NOVA are put in the right teaching positions. And so we do believe it's going to grow, and our goal is over the next 3 to 4 years to allow students to earn that associate's degree with them.
Just real quick, do the dual enrollment courses satisfy the requirements for the advanced diploma?
Yes, they do.
They do, so the same way that IB and AP do, they do as well. And then is there someplace online that we can see, I know you said, you referenced Ms. Vandernald's syllabus, but I think they're all gone. Is it online or the geophysics?
Yeah, I'll post everything online, and here we have some more, Ms. Nettie, bringing you, but that just kind of gives you an example of the weight of the class, how it works. And let me just real quick touch on the financial impact that some of you may have asked. You said, how much is it going to cost? And I was up here with a big fat zero, because that also speaks to the changing culture in our society and how devoted and dedicated many of these institutions are to the success of this program. Tom noted, Virginia, the partnerships that now the majority of the public universities are automatically transferring these credits. There is no argument, there is no go check online and let me see. So it is becoming a nationwide thing. 2 years ago, we were paying about what, $60 to $100 per student enrolled in the class. So it tells you that there really is this huge initiative, this huge push for this program to be successful.
So what kind of credentials for a teacher to be able to teach in a class? I'm sort of confused about, it seems like the IB courses are more rigorous. Versus you're getting on that credit,
You said that, not me. But what I will say, so what I'll tell you is this: our IB teachers, they're trained. They're absolutely trained. IB has a particular style, a particular philosophy, and we adhere to those policies, and we believe we have the strongest teachers in the Northern Virginia area. But what I will also tell you is for a teacher to be credentialed for Northern Virginia, they need 18 hours so they need a master's essentially in a particular content area. So the majority of the teachers who work in our building will have masters of education with a content endorsement. So for example, our math teachers, they went to school, they learned how to become a teacher, and they took several math courses. But we also have some teachers that majored specifically in math. They wanted to become a mathematician. They wanted to, maybe work in a particular job, and they said, you know what, I enjoy teaching a little bit better. Our English department, for example, we're lucky. We have 5 teachers who are credentialed and eligible to teach. We have to teach DE. So that means that they have a master's in English as opposed to a master's in education.
So to teach DE, you don't need one enough because you need to have an education and a concentration system.
So you have to have, for our credentialing, our SACs, our Southern Association of Colleges, it requires a master's with 18 graduate credits.
In teaching.
It can be in anything, but you just need 18 specific graduate credits in physics or in history or in English. Most of the time, people who get credentialed are ones that have just a straight master's in physics or straight, So it can really be in anything, as long as you have those 18 credits. Yes, in the back.
So does this mean that the same teachers are teaching lots more courses?
No, our teachers would traditionally teach 5 sections of a particular course. So this may mean they're teaching 4 CPUS histories and now 1 dual enrollment history. So all we're doing is it's a huge puzzle piece. And what we're trying to do is making sure that the credential teachers are put in the right area. And we're able to do that with the numbers that we have. I don't believe so. I mean, I believe that when students meet with their counselors, they're going to be talking about, is this the right course for me? As I mentioned before, they're a strong writer. Composition may be what they want to take. So I think overall, you're still going to have your traditional IB diploma students, and that's what they want to do. We're not.
Will some teachers have to do an enrollment?
Yeah, our IB teachers are gonna remain our IB teachers, and really at the end of the day, we're gonna have the teachers teach what we feel is most appropriate. We feel they're best at. So that's always our goal. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
I was just curious, what are the advantages for the case and also for NOVA?
Take notes.
Yeah, so it gives us credentialed faculty who also know how to teach high school, which is excellent. And each of the faculty members has a liaison with one of our faculty. So it's usually assistant dean on our side. And by having that kind of connection, they understand where these students are coming from, and also kind of what efficiencies and what styles work versus others. Also, we get money from the state too for the enrollment. So even though we're not charging tuition, we do get money from the state. So that's part of the reason why we do it. Does that make sense?
And does
No, we do not. Yeah. In the back.
Okay, so if my son does the 2-year, starts junior year for the dual enrollment, comes out 33, passes them all, so his transcript will show that he did 33 credits in Northern Virginia Community College without no GPA on all of them.
He'll have a high school GPA, and he'll have a NOVA GPA. If let's say he goes to Virginia Tech, all those 33 will just come in as transfer credits. So he'll have a college GPA, it just won't be at Virginia Tech, it'll be at NOVA. But when he transfers it in, it'll come in as transfer credits.
So those dual enrollment courses will impact the student's GPA. It would just be the same as if they're enrolled in any traditional class we offer in the building.
So they count as a high school GPA, but each high school is
Yes.
how does the transcript work? Do you then have to have two, like you apply to college, would you then have to order a transcript from NOVA, or does it mesh with Mason's as one document?
That's a great point. Whenever students apply, they get an ID number and also a username and password. That's the same username and password that they're going to use whenever they have their transcript sent. If they go to NOVA, it's the same account and everything like that. So whenever they graduate, they will have to go online and into their MyNova, which is our online student information system, and have a transcript sent to wherever they decide to go. So it's not an automatic process, and that's one thing we always get a huge amount of questions at the end of the year. So we usually recommend after grades posted in June, they have those students send it before their freshman year.
So would there be like a blank on the George, like it looks like they only took 3 classes at George Mason, the other 3 were dual enrollment, so you have to really look.
Two separate. So what it will say on our end is, they were dual enrollment class, they'll get a grade. And then there's a separate transcript that they're going to receive from Northern Virginia Community College.
With the same grades, if that makes sense. If they get an A in their first semester history at George Mason, it'll be at the same A that's on their note.
I'm a bit confused, because earlier you had mentioned that it will not count towards GPA or as a competition 111, when our daughter was integrated to college. You said that there won't be a GPA associated with it.
From George Mason's side. So whatever she receives in the class, she'll receive that 4.0 for an A. But on the college side of things, it's gonna count as a transfer credit.
But if she continues on taking additional courses in English, then it will basically, let's say she's taking 3 English classes in 1 year. She's enrolled in actual college, not in dual enrollment. So the GPA that she gets from those 3 classes, it would be combined with the dual enrollment competition 111 to get the GPA, or I'm confused.
Okay. All right. Maybe I didn't do a good job explaining this, and I apologize. So whenever their high school transcript is the first semester, they get an A for that. They would also get an A for the NOVA course, right? So they have a A in both the NOVA and the George Mason High School transcript. If they decide to go to a 4-year school that's not go to NOVA right afterwards, that GPA would just come in as a transfer credit. That course would just come in as a transfer credit. It wouldn't impact, let's say, Virginia Tech's GPA. It would just come in as a transfer.
But if they kept going to Nova, it would count.
I'm sorry?
But if they kept going to Nova, it would
Correct,
count.
yeah. So it counts at NOVA with their GPA.
Anytime you transfer from a university to another university, that's going to be the case. It just comes in as transfer credits, and you start over with a 0 GPA.
Yes.
Those of us who also go to MEH, you touched very briefly about offerings and how as young kids are now going to move into George Mason, they could also be earning dual enrollment potentially there or no?
No. So at the MEH level, they're getting some credits for high school, but the NOVA, the NOVA requirement is that you need to be really a junior or a sophomore in order to start earning those credits. They're taking just George Mason classes, so the students at MEH will be doing that. And what we try to do is, what we're going to do is, we're meeting with the counselors over at MEH when students at 6th and 7th grade are going over their career clusters to determine where they fit, and that's going to be done through Naviance. We basically will include some of the dual enrollment options moving forward. Our goal is to always have a plan for our students, make sure they know. We don't want them to look, 10 years ahead, but we also want them to recognize that there are certain things that are available down the road.
And the other part was, what's the degree of the appetite or degree of difficulty of adding new PE classes here with up to 8 kids who are interested, but there's not a teacher here who is qualified to teach it? Is that, how do you go about it?
Yeah, the question was kind of, would we be able to offer a course if we didn't have a teacher who was credentialed to do the class here, and we only had, let's say, 8 students? So I'll give you a perfect example. If you take a look at the chart, which is the separate page, you notice that we're lacking a specific dual enrollment math class. We recognize that next year there may be a need for that. So let's say we have 8, 10, 12 students that want to take, Math 173. Is that your college? Yeah. 173. So they're taking 173, and we have enough student interest. We will then provide them a teacher through NOVA. Our first goal is to do it through the ELI, which is the Extended Learning Institute, meaning that they will have a teacher coach, we call her, that will, or call them, that will guide them through the program, but they will eventually being assessed and graded by the NOVA teacher. So yes, that is a possibility, and we will offer that if the numbers are deemed appropriate. Yes.
Just going back to what you were saying about the colleges accepting credit. I know you said some of the larger public institutions around the country do accept this. Is it a standard rule that all of the public Virginia colleges will accept these NOVA credits if the student is admitted?
They do, yeah.
So if we have a senior who's walking out with 33 of these DE credits, and they get accepted to Virginia Tech, it's a given that Virginia Tech will accept those 33 credits.
Depending on what their major is, though, it might require them to take additional courses. So if they, by doing the English compositions, that might not wipe out all their English requirements, depending on what their major is. So, same with like the physics. If you are an engineering major, you're going to have to do additional.
And they still have to be accepted into the university.
Correct. Yeah.
So can this high school student declare or decide to go into enrollment at any time of the school year?
Yeah, I think, I don't want to label a student a dual enrollment kid. I think we offer dual enrollment classes. It's a little dissimilar in the fact that when we have a student who is going to earn the IB diploma, there are a set of classes they have to do. We're not going to label someone a dual enrollment student. They can decide to take a course if they'd like. If they want to take the 33 and earn a year's worth of college, go right ahead. It all depends on the strengths and weaknesses of the student. But yes, pretty much at any time from their sophomore year on, they can make that decision. And that's why really I wanted to have this meeting at this critical time period, because your son or daughter, they're deciding right now what they're going to do with their counselors. Each counselor is meeting individually with every single student. They just finished meeting with the freshmen. They're starting the sophomores tomorrow. So they will have an opportunity to go over all of these things. I noted the Holy Grail packet, which pretty much outlines everything that you need to know. One of the things I'd like you to just note very quickly is the initial letter that I've created. We're giving these to all students. One of the issues we had last year was students not recognizing whether or not they needed to take this Virginia placement test. On the letter, it outlines 3 specific dates. Our goal is to really get the student into NOVA by May 2nd, because we were scrambling around in August, and we don't want to have to do that again. So we believe that if a student registers for the class, and yes, granted, we'll have transfer students coming in the summer, and we'll deal with those students and absolutely let them take the courses. But it's important for those students who need to take the Virginia placement, and that's basically those students who do not have a passing math SOL in the last 2 years, or have met the specific criteria outlined for PSAT, SAT, and ACT results, all in the packet. I've created a sign-out sheet with Ms. Monahan, so the students are being directed with their counselors to sign up for those particular test sessions. The test sessions are all on short Wednesdays. It will not impact any of their extracurriculars. They can go ahead and meet me in the library at 2 o'clock on those 3 specified dates. The test traditionally takes anywhere from an hour and a half to 3 hours. I give that huge window because it all depends on if you're a slow reader, if you're a fast reader, if you're, if you can write at the speed of light, or you're one who wants to take a little bit longer. The test is on time, so it gives students the opportunity to take as long as they would like. I have had some students sit there for 4 hours and take it, and that works. Yes?
I presume when you say the May 2nd date, that's for all.
Correct.
Do you have a date for spring enrollment? Because you're talking about these courses where you can take them in the fall, in spring.
Not all the courses fall under that category. U.S. history is probably the one course where the previous section, the 121, is not a prerequisite. But for example, English, the 111 class, is in fact a prerequisite for 112. And that's traditionally how NOVA runs things. So we like to get all of our enrollment in the fall. For U.S. history, we'll have some kids come to us, those I noted who want to maybe drop the IB program, or those who just want to take a more rigorous class. They can then enroll in December, and they'll come to me, and we'll do that on an individual basis.
But NOVA doesn't offer those classes on the fall. Like they only offer the 111 fall. They don't offer it both.
At George Mason, yes. If you wanted to go to campus, you can do fall, spring, summer. But if you want to do it at George Mason, then you would have to follow the schedule.
I just want to say, my family and I really appreciate this opportunity because we transferred to the school, just this year as a junior, and this is a great opportunity because my daughter will be really discouraged if she won't be able to meet all of the classes for IB diploma, and for those of us that are really not into IB diploma, this is a great opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Yes.
Does this form go to anyway?
Okay. Great question. So
Down to brass tacks.
the last page is the form that the student is going to need to bring with them if they're going to sit for the Virginia Placement Test. What it's going to require, and a student can do this completely on their own, is the previous page outlines the application process. This is about a 10 to 15 minute process that can be done online. Students need to apply to NOVA, fill out some minimum stuff that allows them to get into the program, to be considered a NOVA student. They would write their username and password on top and bring this form with them to the test with the class that they would like to enroll in. In order to take the test, they need their username and password. That's how they would log in. If that makes sense.
They show up with this form.
They show up with this form, and then this form is going to allow them to be a duly enrolled student. I can't begin to tell you how difficult it's been to collect these forms. I've been begging Tom to make it electronic, but maybe we'll get there in like 10 years from now. But in the meanwhile, this form is really, I've had students who have not filled out the form and therefore cannot earn the credit. So it's critical, it's key. I'll send reminders just so you know, but the best way to do it is bring it with you to the testing session. That way you don't have to worry about anything. Yes?
Quick question. My daughter enrolls in dual enrollment, and she finds something on Norfolk website, and she wants to take an enrichment course with CMR. Is that okay?
Yeah. What if she does all the placement tests that Mr. Hill is talking about is the same placement tests that you would do on campus. The exemptions that he's talking about in the form are the same exemptions you would do to take classes on campus. The big difference, if she wants to go on campus and do it, is obviously the location, but also the tuition too.
That's fine, but
yeah.
that she could do that if she wants to.
Yeah, it would be a similar form. They would just fill out and bring it to campus if they wanted to come to campus.
You have to have these scores on all these tests and take the placement test?
It's a
Or
substitution.
either or?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
Either or.
So
Either or. And their counselors, when they meet with them, will fill this out. Counselors have all the scores and can go ahead and fill those out.
So I have a freshman, and they've already met.
Okay.
So then I need to back into these scores, so I just call the counselor.
Yes, it also depends on
the form down.
your freshman who's going to be a sophomore next
Yeah.
year would possibly be eligible to take the physics class. But that might be one of the only classes that they can take. The AP government class, remember, is retroactive, so they actually don't need that form right now. Once they go ahead and enroll in a dual enrollment class for junior year, we can go back and we can give them that credit once they fill out the paper. But just to have it in, sure, we can absolutely do that. Or you can just send the student to me and I can fill it out.
So, I have a member here, and he's not. But he has her ID, so are you going to do like public information? Are you done that?
Yeah, so during the class conversations over this past week, I feel like we haven't been in school in a month, but somehow we found a way to talk to the students about the dual enrollment program. So every one of your students, today was the last group we did, it was the Rising Seniors, and we were able to talk to them about this program. So they have the information, the counselors have this packet, they're talking to them, and obviously the online registration gives them the opportunity to choose these classes as well. So right now, we are definitely offering the college success class in the summer. If need be, based on whether or not the introduction to theater class is going to run next year, we may offer an additional fine arts elective in the summer. The fine arts elective class would be done through the ELI, which is the Extended Learning Institute, giving students that flexibility. So if you plan on traveling, they can do it from wherever they are. And there are 2 sessions at NOVA. We tend to join the second 6-week session, which goes from July
to August 18th to 13th or so.
That is correct. So one question was, if we offer summer classes, would that affect your could you take that and take the IB diploma? Yes, that is the one thing that would allow you to do that, absolutely. The more the better in the summer. That's a good request. I will ask the boss in the back about that.
Is there a cost involved with the summer?
Not for the classes that we offer. If we meet,
Summer STV?
yeah, for the summer STV, there will not be a cost. If we are able to meet the minimum number of 8 students and we decide to run another fine arts elective, whether it be intro to music theory, intro to communications, intro to theater, all those classes are a possibility. You'll be getting that information shortly. There will not be a cost associated with it. No. I think it's all about student interest. So I mean, we'll definitely send it out with the summer newsletter that's coming out over spring break, and I'll gather some of that information and feedback and see what we need to offer. Anything else? All right, thank you so much for being here tonight. If you have any individual questions, please feel free to stop by. We'll be here for a while just hanging out. Thank you, guys.